Jojo for that introduction, and I also want to thank Mrs. Pringle. Mrs. Pringle is such an excellent speaker, and she's always a hard act to follow, so I hope I can do justice. But as Jojo said, I am a journalist, and of course, let me apologize for Brenton Henry's absence. We're very busy there in the news business, and he couldn't make it, but I am here with you today. And as a journalist, what we do is really to go out and get answers from the people who have the answers to the important questions, and then bring that information to the public. So in preparation for this presentation, I did speak with a few human resource managers to get an idea of what's the consensus when it comes to CVs, resumes, cover letters. And of course, disclaimer, these things can vary from human resource professional to human resource professional, but it's pretty much standard. With that being said, we can begin the presentation. Essentially, when you're looking for a job, you're going to need a cover letter, you're going to need a resume or a CV, and a CV is a curriculum vitae, and it's a little different from a resume. And at this stage, for people who are just leaving school, a resume is probably more important because that's smaller. It's usually about a page long, and it's for entry-level positions, which is what most of you are going to be looking for. A CV is when you're further in your career and you have published works and that sort of thing. So a resume is a little more appropriate. And then, of course, references, and we'll go through some of these today. Now, a cover letter, that is essentially a letter to the company explaining why you should be given the job. And that should be addressed to the human resource manager or whoever is hiring at that time. And I think it's a nice little touch when you can address the person by name. We all kind of respond when we see our name or hear our names. And so sometimes you'll see an ad in the newspaper and it won't have the name of the human resource manager. But if you can take the time and actually find out who that is, I think it's a nice little plus, and people respond to that. Now, in speaking with some of these HR managers, what they told me is that they want to read in your cover letter something that's not on your resume, because it's repetitive. If your resume is attached to your application, they don't want to just read the same things to say, I went to school here, this is what I studied, this is my work experience. In fact, one human resource manager told me that she likes when people demonstrate ambition. She kind of wants to hear your story. What are your plans in this job? How can this job help you to achieve those goals? And so she wants to get a vision of where you want to be. And also the human resource managers emphasize being open and truthful. It's very important that they can get an idea of who you are, because at any one time, they're looking at many job applications, many cover letters, and so you do want to stand out and you do want to provide them with as much information as possible so that they can make that decision. When we're looking at a CV or a resume, that is basically a list of your qualifications. And so it's going to have education, it's going to have your work experience and skills. And the rule basically is 1 page for a resume. That's usually what's recommended. Don't go beyond 2 pages. And for young people just coming out of school looking for jobs, there probably isn't any need for your resume to be beyond a page long. And when it comes to a resume, a CV tends to be standard. It's going to have a list of your projects that you've worked on, a list of your publications if you're publishing things. But when you're talking about a resume, it can be catered to the job. And what we're saying by that is don't just reprint the same resume and then hand it out if you're applying for a job at a hotel, then a job at a newspaper. You're going to want to emphasize different things. So if it's a job where customer service experience is relevant, and you have that experience along with maybe some other experience, you want to kind of highlight what's relevant and focus on that and kind of cut out the fluff and the other unimportant things. And also important is to summarize well. That's a skill, to summarize, especially when you get further in your careers and you start to build up these different experiences. You don't want to just try to stuff everything in there. You have to learn to say as much as you can in the little space that's provided on that A4 sheet of paper. References, of course, are a list of people who can vouch for who you are and what you bring to the table, and their contact information, so that human resource manager can contact them. It's important that you contact them beforehand so that they have a heads up and they know what's happening, especially if you're thinking about a professional. If it's a teacher, and a teacher has many students every year, maybe they may not have you at the front of their mind. And so if they get a phone call and it's do you know Ashley Thomas, and the teacher's like, who? Then it kind of looks bad, because you put down somebody to be your reference and they're not exactly sure who you are, or at least you're not at the forefront of their mind. They can't speak convincingly about your accomplishments. So it is important to contact them beforehand, and you can provide them as requested by the employer or the HR manager. Now, these are just a list of, I call them rules. I guess they're kind of pet peeves for HR managers. Inappropriate, and by inappropriate we mean sexy, slang, or childish emails. So all of the babygirl23@gmail, you want to cut that out. I know I was told in third form, simple, use your name, your first name, dot last name at Gmail or Hotmail or Yahoo, whichever one. Or if it's, for example, me, it's K for Kyle, K Christian at Gmail. Something simple. It's best to go with your name. Try to avoid all of the slangs and whatever is hip and hot at the moment, and keep it simple. People really can get your resume thrown in a bin for that, because when you're applying, especially you look around this room, you're all basically going to have similar, equal qualifications. And so it's things like these that gets you thrown out and somebody else given the shot. Another example of something they don't like: too casual of an answering machine message. So one human resource manager told me if they dial you, they don't get you, and it goes to a voicemail message. And it's something very casual, like, yo, what's up, I'm in the day right now, call back. No, please try to have something more professional. Once you start applying for jobs, you just really have to be conscious of your presence and what you're putting out there. Because, like it or not, it may seem unfair, but you are being judged when you're putting out an application for a job. How you answer the phone, also just, phone etiquette. That's something else that they take into consideration. Out of date or inaccurate contact information. So I was told a lot about people who have a number on the resume, it doesn't work, or you're not answering the phone. It was also thought to be a plus if you can, maybe if your cell phone's not working and you put down the number of an aunt or a parent or somebody, a landline, that can get in contact with you. One human resource manager told me she was very impressed one time when there was no cell number, but there was a number for an aunt at a workplace, and it showed the person was really interested in getting the job because they made themselves available as much as possible. Cover letter that was handwritten on binder sheets. I guess that that was a story that one person told me, that they got a cover letter that was handwritten on a binder sheet. She said it kind of was a turn off because you're seeing this thing, in this day and age when everything is digital. But the human resource professional did say she was impressed because the spelling was good without the help of Microsoft Word, and the penmanship was good. So I guess for that person, it may be turned into a positive, but it's probably a risk, and you might just want to avoid having a handwritten cover letter on a binder sheet. And just some final thoughts. I know sometimes we think social media isn't real, or it's just for fun, or it's a kind of a alternate universe. It's not. Human resource managers do check Facebook. They say once they're interested in a candidate, they start to do their research, and they want to know the kinds of things that you have put out there. Because they're trying to get a feel if you're going to mesh well with the culture of the business. I know personally, I've been asked to check someone's Facebook. So somebody was applying for a job, and the boss was like, can you see what that person has on their Facebook page, their Twitter, of the social media. So don't think it's not true. Right? Sometimes people disregard it and they say, who's really going to check that? But they do. So you really want to be conscious, as I said earlier, when you're applying for a job, you're putting yourself out there and you want to put out the best possible image. As Mrs. Pringle said, you're selling yourself. So sell yourself well. You want to highlight your strengths, and if you have to discuss your weaknesses, it's always good to discuss how we are working on improving them. And it can be tough, of course, as young people in this job market trying to get a job. It's sometimes who you know, a lot of the times it's who you know and who knows you. But for those of us who are applying, you have to put your best foot forward and put the best image of you forward.